Brian, we need to talk about your flare.
Really? I have 15 pieces on, so you want me to wear more?
Look, Brian...
They can find woodworking on any channel. They come to Woodencreationz for creativeness and inventions.
Okay, that's what the flare's about. It's about fun. Some people choose to wear more, and we encourage that, okay? You do want to express yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. That's all I ask.
Okay, so more flair. I can do more flair.
I'm not sure why, but the flare gun has always been somewhat of a mystery to me. It's expensive, it's dangerous, and should only be used in an absolute emergency. This sounds like all the better reason I should drop all my YouTube AdSense money into buying one and modifying it for a 4,000 subscriber thank you video. A quick removal of the handles and we see a hidden spring that contracts when the hammer is pulled back, giving it the needed power to hit the primer. For this mod, I felt the gun needed a barrel makeover. I don't consider this much of a gun with a barrel so wussy. A quick cut on the bandsaw and the beveled edge is removed, giving me a square end to glue on a piece of PVC pipe. I reached out to the company to see if they'd be interested in working with me. I think this scene pretty much sums up the response I got back from them. After removing the decals off the gun, I needed to fill those voids. I chose one of my favorite putty epoxies called Odie. This epoxy cures to a rock hard in about 60 seconds. It's a stick of two-part material you can work into your hands back and forth until it turns to one color. They're not sponsored, but I highly recommend you check out this stuff at your local hardware store. It'll be found back in the plumbing department. The feel of the plastic hammer was very thin and very uncomfortable. I realize you might only fire 2 shots in your lifetime if your boat's sinking, but at $50 a flare gun, I kinda want my last 2 shots to feel like $1,000,000, especially if I'm getting ready to turn into shark food. So instead of writing the company to express my lack of love for their cheap plastic hammer, well, I decided to throw in the mod for free. I had to make a decision on where I wanted to take this build. Should I give the gun a more modern feel or a western look? And after a few days of pondering, I really liked the look of Steampunk, but I was going to need to research it more before I did anything in regards to this project. Here I'm cutting foam sheets found at Hobby Lobby into rectangles. I apply contact cement to the foam as well as to the gun. I found the hairdryer speeds up the process if you don't want to wait the 15 minutes for each piece to become tacky. The gun was starting to take shape, but it was missing something. It really needed some curves. Again, I reached for the epoxy putty and began shaping until I could picture a balanced, eye-catching look. I always draw out my ideas on paper before I start a project, but most of the time I have to shape it on the fly as I record it, and we both see it for the first time. I quickly had to make sure my hand would fit in the handle after finally getting a curve I liked before the epoxy cured. The next step is to add some fake rivets to the foam. It would have been better to do this step before spray painting the gun. I did come back and re-spray paint the gun after this step was completed. Next I used rub and buff to give the gun a metal look. This stuff cost about $5 and I found it at Michael's and Hobby Lobby, but also saw it online. This isn't a sponsored product, but this is an amazing paint you need in your making arsenal. It's a mix of carnauba wax and paint. I've seen it applied by rubbing it on with your fingers, but I found a better way by applying it with a paintbrush. I figured if I'm doing steampunk, I might as well look the part. I purchased some gloves and applied the same technique I showed you on the gun. If you feel you apply too much rub and buff, spray paint the piece again and repeat the rub and buff. I did this a few times on the gun and gloves until I found the exact look I desired. The steampunk techniques I showed you for the gun and gloves was learned over on Chris's YouTube channel called Lost Wax. This guy's a rock star when it comes to making you laugh and teaching you how to make cool things out of foam. I'll leave a link to his website in my description.
We have to get going. We don't have much time. I'll explain in the truck. Let's go. I've spotted some chairs. They're in the trash. And I think it's probably good that we save them. So we're coming up on the first one right now. Holy cow, there he is. There's the blue monster. Alright guys, so I just made it home, and let's take a look and see what these chairs look like, because I don't know if this was really worth it or not. This one looks like pretty good wood. It's solid, but I see where it failed here on this chair. I mean, I could totally glue it and put it all back together, but it might be more fun to make something out of it. And this chair, these casters are always pretty nice for projects. If you put this on the bottom of a board, you can roll stuff around your shop pretty easily. The chair here, you can obviously see that the arm is in some pretty bad shape. I don't really have a use for the arm, or definitely not touching that seat, but the back of this will probably be what I use. This isn't real leather here, but this here somewhat feels more vinyl. I don't think it's real leather, but it feels more vinyl. So we'll see what we can do with this chair. Today I'm going to show you why you don't pull a chair out of the trash.
Hunting the Edge of Space. Up now on Nova.
No! No! No!
As I was taking apart this wooden chair, I found that it was solid wood, and it came apart pretty easily. For the vinyl chair, I'm going to play it safe and only skin the back. The black light showed no Milky Way or Big Dipper on this side of the chair, so I feel relatively safe. My goal is to build a box for the flare gun using the wooden chair pieces. Then line the inside of that box with the vinyl pieces I recovered from the solar system chair. There are lots of joints to build a box, but I wanted to try something simple and something that I've never tried before. I used the table saw to cut half-lap joints. It may not be the most elegant, but the box feels incredibly strong and will do great just sitting on my shelf for the years to come. I used my router to round over the edges that will soon be the lid. Next, I traced the flare gun on a piece of plywood, then add a place to store the flares. There are a few things I'm awful at. Upholstery work has to be at the top of the list. There's always a fold or a flap or a crease. It's always like spare parts when I put something back together. I used contact cement to keep the vinyl tight to the plywood and give me the indentation look I was shooting for. And there you have it, a flare gun rebuilt from the ground up to look old and metallic. I realize this may not be someone else's idea of steampunk, but this is what I had in mind. I hope to see you all at my 4,000 YouTube subscriber video. And oh yeah, bring the popcorn because we're lighting this flare gun up.